The Ramayana, translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit of Valmiki, edited and published by Manmatha Nath Dutt, 1891. Ramayana, Ayodhya Kanda, Section 87. Hearing the words of Guha, exceedingly unpleasant, Bharata, as soon as he heard them, became plunged in thought. And then taking heart for a while, that tender-framed one possessed of immense strength, gifted with leonine shoulders and length of arms, having expansive eyes resembling white lotuses, young in years, and endowed with a handsome presence, affected with great grief, was overpowered, like an elephant wounded in the heart with a goad. Seeing Bharata deprived of his senses, with his countenance covered with pallor, Guha became exceedingly agitated, like a tree during an earthquake. Seeing Bharata in that condition, Satrughna, who was near, taking the former on his lap, began to cry, almost deprived of his senses and oppressed with grief. Thereat, all the mothers of Bharata, fasting, undergoing distress, and afflicted with the calamity that had befallen their lord, came forward, and surrounding Bharata, began to lament him fallen on the ground. And the distressed Kausalya, drawing nigh, embraced him like a cow approaching her calf, and weeping from excess of grief, spoke unto Bharata, saying, My son, doth any malady afflict thy body? Now the life of this royal race is, without doubt, in thy hands. Rama having gone away along with his brother, I shall, O son, live, seeing thee. King Dasaratha having departed this life, thou alone art our Lord. Hast thou, my son, heard anything unpleasant concerning Lakshmana, or the son of that one having an only son, who has gone to the forest along with his wife? Having taken comfort for a while, that one of high fame weeping, and solacing Kausalya, spoke unto Guha, saying, Where did my brother pass the night? And where did Sita? And where did, again, Lakshmana? And in what bed did he sleep? And what did he previously partake of? Do thou, O Guha, tell me this. Thereat, well pleased, Guha, the lord of Nishdas, related unto Bharata how he had acted in respect of Rama, his dear guest, studious of his welfare. I procured for Rama's use rice and fruits and roots and various kinds of food. All these Rama, having truth for his prowess, accepted, but observing Kshatriya morality, he did not take them. O friend, we ought not to take anything, ours is always to give. Thus did that magnanimous one beseech us. On the high-souled Lakshmana bringing water, Raghava having drunk it, fasted along with Sita. Then Lakshmana drank up the water that remained. Then the three with fixed minds silently performed their adorations unto the twilight. After that, Sumitra's son prepared a goodly bed for Raghava, himself bringing kusa grass. And in that bed lay down Rama in company with Sita. Next, washing their feet, Lakshmana turned away. This is the foot of the inguli, and this that grass. On it both Rama and Sita lay down that night. Fastening on his back a pair of quivers filled with arrows, furnished with finger fences, and taking his mighty bow, Lakshmana all night kept watch around. I also, taking an excellent bow, remained where remained Lakshmana, and surrounded by my kindred who stayed there vigilantly, equipped with bows, guarded him that resembled the mighty Indra. Section 88. Having heard everything, Bharata in company with the counselors went to the foot of the inguri tree and saw the bed of Rama. And he said unto his mothers, that high-souled one lay down here on the ground during the night, and his limbs pressed this spot. Begot of that foremost of monarchs, the exalted and intelligent Dasaratha, Rama does not deserve to sleep on the earth. How can that chief of men, having reposed in beds furnished with pillows made of deerskins and having superb cloths, have lain down on the earth? Always reposing in mansions and in upper apartments paved with silver and gold and supplied with excellent bedcloths, decked with heaps of flowers, perfumed with sandal and aguru, hued like unto pale clouds, resonant with the notes of many parrots, in palaces going before the choicest of their class, ringing with music, and perfumed like unto Meru itself, with their bases composed of gold. Rama used to be awakened with vocal and instrumental music, the tinklings of elegant ornaments and the peals of goodly mridangas, that subduer of foes, being in due season hymned by the eulogists and friends, bards and genealogists, with worthy ballads and panegyrics. This assertion of Rama's lying down on the ground appears to me incredible. It doth by no means look unto me like truth. Forsooth, I am amazed. I take it, this is a vision. Verily, no destiny is superior to time, since Dasaratha's son, Rama himself, had to repose on the earth, and the beauteous beloved daughter of Videha's king, and the daughter-in-law of Dasaratha, had to lie down on the ground. This was the bed of my brother. On this hard spot did he turn his lovely limbs, and this grass was pressed by them. I think that the graceful Sita adorned with ornaments slept in this bed, for here and there are scattered particles of gold. It is clear that Sita had spread her sheet at this spot, hence it is that fibers of silk are discoverable here. I deem that the bed of her lord appeareth agreeable unto a wife, since a girl tender and in affliction, the chaste daughter of Mithila, experienced no inconvenience in sleeping in one such. I am undone. Baleful am I, for it is on my account that Raghava along with his wife, lay down in such a bed, like one forlorn. Born in the imperial race, and capable of conferring happiness on all, the bringer about of all good, why did Raghava of dark blue hue like that of a lotus, graceful, and crowned with red eyes, the inheritor of happiness and undeserving of misery, having left his dear consummate kingdom, lie down on the ground? Surely the mighty armed Lakshmana, graced with auspicious marks, is blessed, he who in the time of dire adversity followed his brother Rama. And blessed is Videha's daughter who followed her husband into the woods. Bereft of that magnanimous one, we have all been brought into jeopardy. The earth without her helmsman seemeth unto me quite empty. On Dasaratha having ascended the celestial regions, and Rama taken refuge in the wilderness. On Rama having set up his dwelling in the forest, one like me doth not even mentally covet this earth which had been protected by the immense prowess of Raghava. With her walls undefended, her horses and elephants unrestrained, and her gates left open, the defenseless metropolis deprived of her power, placed in peril and without any protection, is surely not regarded by the enemies like food mixed with poison. From this day forth I will lie down on the ground, or on the grass, daily subsisting on fruits and roots, and bearing matted locks and a cloth of bark. And for his sake I will in future live happily in the woods. By my doing so, the promise of that high-minded one shall not be rendered null. Me residing in the forest in the interests of my brother, Satrughna shall bear company, while my noble one will rule Ayodhya assisted by Lakshmana. The twice-born ones will sprinkle Kakutstha in Ayodhya. May the deities realize this desire of mine. Propitiated by me personally in various ways with bent head, If he do not consent, then shall I ever stay with Raghava in the woods. Surely he cannot long persist in putting me off. Section 89. Having spent the night there on the banks of the Ganga, that descendant of Raghu rising early in the morning, said these words unto Satrugna, O Satrugna, arise. Why sleepest thou? Bring thou at once that lord of the Nishadas, Guha. Good betide thee. He will take the army over the stream. Thus urged by his brother, Satrugna said, thinking of that noble one Rama, I have not slept, but have remained awake in a like manner. As those chiefs of men were thus conversing with each other, Guha appearing in time with joined hands, remarked, O Kakutstha, hast thou spent the night happily on the banks of the river? And is it continuous good fortune with thee along with thy forces? Hearing Guha's speech fraught with affection, Bharata, ever obedient unto Rama, spoke on his part, saying, Happily have we spent the night, and we have also been well received by thee. Now let thy servants take us over by means of many boats. Thereat, hearing Bharata's mandate, Guha, bestirring himself, re-entered the city and addressed his kinsfolk, saying, Arise ye! Awake! May good always attend you. Do ye draw up the boats, I shall ferry the forces over. Thus asked, they arising and bestirring themselves in consequence of the king's command, brought up 500 boats around. Others also known by the name of swastika, bearing large bells on their prows, and banners, well decked out, furnished with oars, and manned by bargemen, with their joints firmly constructed, were brought up. And Guha himself brought a graceful barge, called swastika, covered with pale woolen cloth, and resounding with music. On this boat ascended Bharata, the mighty Satrugna, Kausalya, Sumitra, and other wives of the king. The priests and preceptors belonging unto the Brahmana order had already ascended. After Bharata and others had got up, ascended the wives of auxiliary princes, and cars and provisions were got on board. And the uproar consequent on the troops burning down dwellings, pressing down descents unto the river, and loading goods, spread on all sides. Then those boats hung with pennons, managed by the kinsfolk of Guha, set off at speed with the teeming folks that had got on board. And some of these were filled with women, and some with horses, and some conveyed cars and cattle of great value. And going to the other bank and landing the crowds on the shore, the friends and slaves of Guha, while returning, displayed various movements of the boats. And elephants graced with flags being spurred on by their riders, began to cross the stream, appearing like so many winged hills. Others ascended boats, and others crossed on rafts, others crossed by means of reversed pitchers, and others by their arms alone. Ferried over the Ganga by the servants of Guha, that beautiful army, graced with streamers, at the third Muhurta arrived at the romantic woods of Prayaga. Having made the army take rest at its ease, and encamped it at the woods of Prayaga, that magnanimous one, Bharata, for the purpose of seeing the asylum of the ascetic Bharadwaja, went thither, accompanied by Ritvijas and Satsyas. Section 90. Having arrived at the neighborhood of Bharadwaja's asylum, that foremost of men while it was a crochet to the destination, left his forces behind and went thither, accompanied by his counselors alone. And leaving his attire and arms, and clad in a silk cloth, that pious one placing the priest in front, went on foot. Then with the view of seeing Bharadwaja, that descendant of Raghu, leaving behind the counselors also, went in the wake of the priest. As soon as Bharadvaja of rigid austerities saw Vasishtha, he at once rose from his seat, saying unto his disciples, Agya. On being called upon by Vasishtha, that highly energetic one understood that it was Dasaratha's son. Having offered them, the guests, water to wash their feet and Agya, as well as fruits subsequently, that virtuous one, Bharadvaja, successively inquired after the welfare of their respective homes, and after that, of the forces, exchequer, friends and counsellors in Ayodhya. And knowing that Dasaratha had departed this life, he did not ask anything relating to the monarch. Then Vasishtha and Bharata questioned him as to his welfare in relation to the body, the sacrificial fire, the trees, the beasts and the birds of the hermitage. To all this returning, so it is, the illustrious Bharadvaja from affection for Raghava said unto Bharata, What is the use of thy visit here, seeing that thou art engaged in the task of governing the kingdom? Do thou relate all this unto me, my mind is ill at ease. That slayer of foes, and perpetuator of his race who hath been born by Kausalya, and who along with his wife and brother hath been banished to the woods for a long term, that illustrious one who enjoined by his sire in the interests of a woman, hath become an inhabitant of the woods for 14 years, dost thou, desirous of securely enjoying the kingdom, belonging to him as well to his younger brother, intend to do any harm unto that sinless one? Thus accosted, Bharata replied unto Bharadvaja with tears filling his eyes and his words choked with grief, Undone am I if the reverend one also deems me so. Do not apprehend any wrong from me, and do thou not reproach me thus. Whatever my mother has said in relation to me, does not express my wish. I am not satisfied with that, nor do I endorse her speech. I, intending to pacify him, am going to that chief of men, with the view of taking him unto Ayodhya and of paying homage unto his feet. Thinking me as already gone, thou shouldst show thy favor unto me. O reverend sir, tell me where stayeth at present Rama, Lord of the earth. Besought by Vasishtha and the other Ritvijas, the venerable Bharadvaja well pleased, spoke unto Bharata, O foremost of men, even this is worthy of thee. Serving superiors, restraint of the senses, and following the pious, are ever found in one sprung in the Raghava line. I know that even this is thy intention, but for the purpose of making thy mind all the firmer, I had asked thee in this wise, so that thy fame might greatly increase. I also know the righteous Rama with Sita and Lakshmana. This brother of thine at present stays at the mighty mountain Chitrakuta. On the morrow thou wilt set out for that region. Do thou today sojourn here along with thy counsellors. O wise one, do this at thy pleasure, O thou understanding interest and desire. Thereat the gentle-looking and highly famous one said, Be it so, and the king's son made up his mind to spend the night in the great hermitage of the saint. Section 91. Then the ascetic asked Bharata, the son of Kaikeyi, when he had decided for staying there, to receive his hospitality. Thereat Bharata said, Thou hast for certain done this, hast offered me water for washing my feet, Agya, and hospitality with what can be procured in the forest. Then Bharadvaja, as if in jest, said unto Bharata, I know thee to be of a complacent disposition, and that thou art pleased with anything and everything. But I wish to feast thy forces. And, O best of men, it behoves thee to act in harmony with my desire. Why didst thou coming hither, leave thy army at a distance? And, thou man of men, why didst thou not come accompanied with thy forces? Bharata replied unto him, saying, I had not come accompanied with my forces, from fear of thee, O reverend sir. O worshipful one, kings and their sons should always carefully avoid the regions of ascetics. Choice steeds, men, and mad elephants of the best kind, covering a spacious tract of country, come in my train, respected sir, that these might not injure trees or water or the grounds of the cottages pertaining to the asylums, have I come hither alone. Bring the forces here, thus desired by the mighty ascetic. Bharata accordingly caused the troops to be brought in. Then entering the chamber of the sacrificial fire, Bharadwaja, having sipped water and rubbed his lips therewith, invoked Viswakarma for the purpose of entertaining his guest. I invoke Viswakarma, even Twastri himself. I wish to entertain guests. Let him accomplish this for me. I invoke the three guardians of the world's gods headed by Sakra. I wish to entertain guests. Let them accomplish this for me. Let those rivers that flow westwards, and those that move tortuously on the earth and in the sky, come hither in a body. And let others run Mereya, and others refined wine, and others again cool waters resembling the juice of the sugar cane. I invoke the celestials and the Gandhabas and Viswavasu and Haha and Huhu and also the divine Apsaras and Gandhabis all, and Bhiritachi, Viswachi, Misraksi and Alamvusha, and Nagdakta and Hema and Soma residing in the mountain, and those ladies that attend Sakra, and those that attend Brahma. I invoke all these females well attired, in company with Tamburu. And let that beautiful forest of Kuvara in the north Kuru, having its foliage resembling attires and ornaments, and its fruits debonair damsels, exist even at this very spot. And here let the worshipful Soma yield me excellent viands of divers kinds in plenty, things that may be eaten or enjoyed, sucked or licked, and variegated blossoms growing in the trees, and wines and other drinks, and meats of various kinds. Thus, furnished with unrivaled ascetic energy, did that anchoret observing excellent vows, express himself orthopically in consonance with Siksha. And as he sat with joined hands facing the west with a rapt mind, there came separately all those deities. And then touching Malaya and Dadura, and laden with perfumes, a delicious and welcome wind began to blow delightfully, removing sweat. And the clouds poured down a pleasant shower of blossoms, and from all sides were heard sounds of celestial kettle drums. And a rare breeze set in, and the multitudes of Apsaras danced, and the celestials and the Gandhabas sang, and the Vinas let out their notes. And the dulcet sounds high and low furnished with sama and measure, entered the earth and the firmament and the ears of all creatures. When that celestial symphony, delightful unto the ears of men, had thus developed itself, Bharata's forces saw the workmanship of Viswakarma. That spot widening into a level plain measuring 5 yojanas was covered with thick grass resembling blue lapises, and on it stood vilvas, and kapitvas, panasas, citrons, and amalkas, and mangoes, embellished with fruits. From the north Kuru had spread a wood capable of conferring every enjoyment, and a beautiful river coursed through bordered by many a tree. And there had arisen white edifices having 4 divisions, and stables for horses and elephants, and grand gateways belonging unto palaces and mansions, and royal residences with graceful gates, resembling white clouds, bearing white garlands and washed with fragrant waters, having 4 corners, and spacious, fitted up with beds, seats, and vehicles, having every kind of excellent sapid food, stocked with excellent edibles and apparels, having every variety of food, possessing washed and bright vessels, with every description of seats, graceful, and accommodated with choice beds with coverlets, permitted by the Maharshi, Kaikeyi's son, Bharata, entered that mansion abounding in gems. And he was followed by the councillors and the priests, and the latter beholding the arrangements of the palace, were filled with delight. And Bharata in company with the councillors there went round the august royal seat, the chauri, and the umbrella, worthy of a king. And having bowed down unto Rama, he worshipped that seat. And then holding the chauri of hair, he sat down on the seat of a minister. Then the councillors and priests seated themselves according to rank. And thereafter the general and the protector of the encampment got themselves seated. Then at Bharadwaja's command, came into being near Bharata, streams having Vyasa for their slime. And at the pleasure of the Brahmana, on both their banks arose charming dwellings, covered with pale clay. And at that very moment there came 20,000 women commissioned by Brahma, adorned with divine ornaments. And there came also 20,000 females sent by Kuvara, decked out in gold and gems, pearls and corals. The sight of these was capable of filling men's minds with enchanting ravishment. And there came from Nandana 20,000 damsels, and Narda and Tamburu and Gopa, resembling the sun in splendor. The Gandharva kings began to sing before Bharata. And Alambusha, and Misrakshi, and Pundarika, and Vaman danced before Bharata, at the command of Bharadwaja. And those blossoms that are in the celestial regions, and that bloom in the forest of Chaitraratha, became visible in Prayaga at the energy of Bharadwaja. And Vilvas did the office of players on the Mridanga, and Vibhitakas, that of keepers of Soma, and Aswathas became dancers, at the energy of Bharadwaja. And Sarlas, Thalas, Thilakas, and Thamalas, being delighted, became humpbacked ones and dwarfs. And Seensapas, Amalkis, Jambas and other plants of the forest, wearing the forms of females, stood at the mansion of Bharadwaja. Let wine drinkers drink wine, the hungry eat payasa, and those that are inclined to it, feed on clean meat. And every 7 or 8 females taking a man, bathe him on the lovely banks of the rivers. And damsels furnished with expansive eyes, having wiped the persons of the bathers, pressed their legs, and those magnificent women made them drink wine. And the keepers duly fed excellent horses, elephants, camels and Suravi's sons, oxen, with their proper food. And some persons possessed of mighty strength, being directed thereto, fed the bearers of the foremost Ikshvaku warriors with sugar canes, honey, and fried paddy. And the groom forgot his horse, and the elephant keeper his elephant. That army there became transported with wine and exhilaration, and sumptuously entertained with every enjoyment, with their bodies decked with red sandal. The soldiery in the company of bevies of Apsaras, exclaimed, to Ayodhya will we not go, nor yet to Dandaka. Peace be unto Bharata, and may Rama reap happiness. Thus did footmen and the riders and keepers of elephants and horses, as well as others, having experienced such a state, utter words. And men by thousands, exceedingly delighted, sent up shouts, and saying, This is heaven. The retinue of Bharata, the soldiers, began to dance and laugh and sing, and bearing garlands, they on all sides rushed by thousands. And beholding the inviting viands resembling ambrosia, they, although already fed, became desirous of eating once again. And wearing new clothes, all the servants, and maids, and females of the household, became exceedingly well pleased. And elephants, and asses, camels, kine and horses, and beasts and birds, being fed their fill, did not hunger after anything else. And there appeared no one who wore a soiled habit, or who was hungry, or melancholy, or whose hair was covered with dust. And the people with wonder beheld before them vessels of precious metals by thousands, graced with chaplets of flowers, filled with essences of fruits and fragrant soups and curries and the flesh of goats and bears, and white rice. And there were, on the skirts of the wood, wells having payasa for their slime, and the kin yielded whatever was asked, and all the trees dropped honey. And the tanks were filled with meraya as well as with clean hot meat of deer, peacocks, and cocks, dressed in pans. And there were rice holders by thousands, and curry pots by 100,000s, and golden vessels by arvudas. And there were pitchers and water pots and cleaned vessels for churning curd, filled with the same. And there were tanks of savory and yellow buttermilk, well tempered. And there were tanks filled with rasai and others filled with milk, and with sugar. And men saw sediments, acrid powders and various other things in vessels, for the purpose of bath, on the terraces of tanks, and tooth-cleaning sticks of ankuman and other trees, and white sandal paste lying before, and cleaned mirrors, and lots of cloths, and sandals, and shoes in pairs by thousands, and collyrium pots, and combs, and brushes, and bows at some places, and mail and various kinds of seats and beds. And they saw reservoirs for asses, camels, elephants, and horses, with easy descents, filled with water to assist their digestion, and pools furnished with lotuses, of the hue of the firmament, with transparent water, comfortable for ablutions, and tender plots of grass all around colored like blue lapises, to serve as pasture for beasts. Witnessing the wonderful hospitality provided by the Maharshi Bharadwaja, like unto a vision, the men marveled. Thus entertained like unto celestials in Nandana, they passed the night at the hermitage of Bharadwaja. Then taking the permission of Bharadwaja, all the Gandhabas as well as the superb damsels went away as they had come. And the men remained intoxicated and highly inebriate with the liquor, their persons daubed with goodly aguru and sandal, and the various elegant garlands beautiful to behold, lay by themselves all around, crushed by the people. Section 92. Having passed that night, Bharata, having been entertained along with his family, appeared before Bharadwaja, desirous of seeing Rama. Seeing that foremost of men standing with joined hands, Bharadwaja, who had just finished his fire sacrifice, said, "Hast thou passed the night pleasantly at our place? And have all thy men been pleased with our hospitality? Do thou tell me this, O sinless one." Thereupon, Bharata bowing down, with joined hands said unto that ascetic of excellent energy, as he had issued out of his hermitage, "O reverend sire, I along with all my forces and vehicles have passed the night happily. I have been full well entertained by thee, O worshipful one possessed of power. And with our languor and heat removed, we all sumptuously feasted and comfortably quartered, have passed the night agreeably along with our servants. Now, O best of ascetics, I beseech thee to look with a propitious eye on me who am bound for my brother's place. And tell me, O thou cognizant of morality, how far is it unto that high-souled righteous one's asylum, and by what way shall I reach there?" When Bharata, eager to see his brother, had asked thus, the highly energetic Bharadwaja of rigid austerities answered, "O Bharata, 2.5 yojanas hence, embosomed in a tenantless wood is the mountain Chitrakuta, charming with rocks and woods. On its northern border flows the river Mandakini, covered with flowering trees and with blossoming woods. Beyond the stream is the mountain Chitrakuta. There is their thatched cottage, my child, there they abide for certain. Proceeding by the southern way, do thou with thy forces composed of elephants and horses, O master of the army, turn to the left, O exalted one, and go southwards. By doing so, thou wilt be able to see Raghava. Hearing of their departure, the wives of that king of kings, leaving their cars, albeit worthy of them, gathered round the Brahmana. Lean and trembling and in woeful guise, Kausalya along with the noble Sumitra, with her hands took the feet of the ascetic. Despised universally because of her unrighteous desire, Kaikeyi also bashfully took hold of his feet, and, having circumambulated the mighty and venerable anchoret, stood near Bharata in dejection of spirits. Then the mighty ascetic Bharadwaja asked Bharata, O descendant of Raghu, I wish to know particularly about thy mothers. Thus accosted by Bharadwaja, the pious Bharata deft in speech said with joined hands, O reverend sir, she whom thou beholdest depressed and emaciated through grief and fasting, resembling a very goddess is the noble queen of my father. This one, Kausalya, it is that gave birth unto that chief of men, having the powerful gait of a lion, Rama, even as Aditi gave birth to Dhata. She that stands at her left hand, in dejected guise, is the noble Sumitra. Afflicted with sorrow, the second wife of the monarch like a carnicra bough in a forest, with all its blossoms shriveled up. The sons of this exalted lady are the youthful and heroic Lakshmana and Satrughna, having truth for their prowess, and resembling celestials in shape. And her, in consequence of whose act those foremost of men have come by crushing misfortune, and the king Dasaratha hath gone to heaven, deprived of his son, wrathful and proud of her good fortune, setting her heart on wealth, Kaikeyi, dishonorable, although endowed with the semblance of honor, do thou know this wicked one intent on sin as my mother? In her do I perceive the root of my mighty misfortune. Having said this, with his words choked with emotion, that best of men with his eyes reddened, sighed like an enraged serpent. As Bharata was speaking thus, the great ascetic Bharadwaja, gifted with high understanding and knowing interest, answered Bharata, saying, O Bharata, thou ought not to cast any blame on Kaikeyi. This banishment of the king Rama shall be for the good of all. The banishment of Rama shall surely be for the welfare of the gods and the asuras and sages of concentrated souls. Thus blessed, Bharata saluted the ascetic and went round him, and then summoning the soldiery, said, Yoke. Thereupon, getting ready excellent steeds and cars decked with gold, many people mounted, with the intention of departing. And male and female elephants with golden chains round their necks, and furnished with banners, with the sounds of bells, proceeded, like clouds at the end of the summer season, and then proceeded various kinds of cars great and light of movement and of high value, and the infantry went on foot. And on a magnificent car went the ladies, headed by Kausalya, with delighted hearts, eager to see Raghava. And ascending an elegant car resembling the infant sun or moon, driven by charioteers, went the graceful Bharata well attired. And that mighty host abounding with horses and elephants proceeded, blocking up the southern quarter, like a colossal cloud arisen in the sky, leaving behind on the other bank of the Ganga, woods inhabited by birds and beasts, and coursing by rivers and mountains, and composed of numbers of elephants and horses in high spirits, that army of Bharata, frightening multitudes of beasts and birds, dived into that mighty forest. Section 93. Afflicted by the mighty force on its way with banners displayed, those inhabitants of the woods, leaders of elephant herds, took to their heels in company with the herds themselves. And bears and prishathas and ruras were on all sides seen in the forest ways, and on hills and rivers. And that virtuous son of Dasaratha with a glad heart held on his way, surrounded by that vast army consisting of fourfold forces, raising a tremendous uproar. And that army of the high-souled Bharata resembling the waves of the ocean, covered the earth quite, as clouds in the rainy season cover the welkin. And filled with steeds and mighty elephants, the earth at that time for a long while remained invisible. And having proceeded a long way, the graceful Bharata, with his bearers extremely tired, said these words unto that foremost of counsellors, Vasishtha, from appearances, and from what I had heard, it is evident that we have arrived at that region which Bharadwaja had told us of. This is the mountain Chitrakuta and that, the river Mandakini. And from a distance this forest appeareth like dark clouds. And now our elephants resembling hills afflict the romantic sides of Chitrakuta. And the trees scatter blossoms over the sides of the mountain, even as after summer sable clouds pour down showers. O Satrugna, behold the realms inhabited by Kinnaras, scattered with steeds, like the main with Makras. And these herds of deer furnished with celerity, being urged on, roam about like masses of clouds in the sky in autumn, propelled by the winds. And like the people of the south, these warriors bearing shields resembling clouds, are adorning their heads with ornaments of perfumed blossoms. And this forest, although void of men and dreadful in appearance, at present appeareth unto me like Ayodhya teeming with people. The dust raised by the hoofs of horses stands covering the sky, and on the wind bearing it away, compasses my pleasure. And, O Satrugna, see how fast these cars yoked with steeds and driven by skillful charioteers, are proceeding in the forest. And behold these beauteous peacocks, which, being frightened, take refuge in the mountain, the home of feathered tribes. This country appears to me exceedingly lovely. This abode of the ascetics is like unto the way to heaven itself. Male and female deer and prishathas in the forest, beautiful to look at, appear as if variegated with flowers. Now let the soldiers go advisedly and search this forest, so that they light upon those chiefs of men, Rama and Lakshmana. Hearing Bharata's speech, persons with weapons in their hands, plunged into the forest, and those heroes presently discovered the top of a column of smoke. Having seen the top of the column of smoke, they came before Bharata and said, "Fire cannot exist where there is no man present. Therefore it is evident that even here are those descendants of Raghu. But if those foremost of men, those subduers of their enemies, the princes, be not here, there are others, being ascetics, resembling Rama." Hearing their words acceptable unto the pious, that afflictor of hostile ranks, Bharata, said unto the entire army, "Do ye carefully stay here, do not proceed further. I myself will go, and Sumantra and Dhriti." Thus desired, the troops remained all about that place. Bharata went away, keeping his gaze fixed in the direction of the top of the column of smoke. Desired by Bharata to halt, that army, looking in the direction of the smoke, rejoiced soon on learning that the beloved Rama had arrived at that place. Section 94. Having spent a long time in that mountain, that lover of hills and woods, Dasaratha's son resembling an immortal, anxious to pleasure Vaidehi as well as to please his own mind, showed the variegated Chitrakuta unto his wife, like Purandara unto Sachi. O gentle one, neither deprivation of the kingdom nor separation from friends afflicts my mind on beholding this romantic mountain. My gentle one, look but at the hill abounding with flocks of various birds, adorned with summits cleaving the welkin and teeming with mineral substances. And some parts of this monarch of mountains are like silver, and some are blood red, and some yellow like the hue of mangista, and some lustrous like sapphires, and some shining like blossoms or crystal or caticus, and some blazing like stars or mercury, and some digged in mineral substances. And the mountain shines, being filled with divers beasts and multitudes of innocuous tigers, hyenas and bears, and thronged with innumerable birds, and overspread with mangoes, rose apples, and asnas, and lodras, pelas, jacks, ankolas, and bhavyatinikas, and vilvas, and tindukas, and bamboos, kasmeres, arishtas, and varnas, and madukas, sesames, and jujubes, and amalkas, nipas, canes, danvanas, and citrons all in full flower, and bearing fruits, umbrageous and charming, the mountain attains an accession of loveliness. And, thou gentle one, on the picturesque plateau of the hill behold these intelligent couples of kinnaras engaged in sport at spots yielding every enjoyment, and look at their swords hung up on the boughs. And see the gorgeous apparel of Vidyadharis, as well as the charming regions in which they sport. And like an elephant dropping the temporal juice, this hill appeareth beautiful with cascades, fountains and rillets, flowing here and there. Whom doth not the breeze laden with the perfumes of many a flower, soothing the sense of smell, fill with delight? If, O blameless one, I dwell here for many years with thee as well as Lakshmana, grief cannot overcome me. O damsel, I take delight in this picturesque peak abounding in flowers and fruits, and frequented by various birds. By this banishment of mine, I have gained two things. My father has maintained his truth in religion, and Bharata has obtained his dear interest. O daughter of Videha, art thou being pleased on viewing along with me on Chitrakuta, various objects grateful unto mind, speech and body? O queen, this abode in the forest, like unto ambrosia hath been declared by those royal saints, my ancestors, as working out one's emancipation after death. The giant crags of the mountain graced the place all round by hundreds, many and various hued, blue and yellow and pale and red. In the night, the annual herbs by thousands growing on this foremost of hills, shine and become visible by their own luster, like flames of fire. And, O lady, some parts of the mountain appear like dwellings, and some like gardens, and some, again, consist of single rocks, capable of accommodating numbers of men. And Chitrakuta looks as if it had arisen, riving the earth, and the fair front of Chitrakuta can be perceived from every point. Behold the beds of pleasure seekers, consisting of the petals of lotuses, with stagras, pangas and brayapatras for their coverlets. And, my wife, behold these lotus garlands have been crushed and scattered, and the various fruits have been partaken of. The mountain Chitrakuta abounding in fruits and roots and waters, surpasses Kuvara's capital or Sakra's city or the North Kurus. My wife, O Sita, if in consonance with my own excellent rules, I can, remaining in the path of the pious, pleasantly pass this time along with thyself and Lakshmana, then I shall attain the happiness, resulting from observing the duties of one's race. Section 95. Then going out of the mountain, the Lord of Kosla showed unto Mithila's daughter the charming stream Mandakini of excellent waters. And Rama, furnished with eyes resembling lotuses, addressed the daughter of King Videha, transcendently beautiful, with a countenance like the fair moon, saying, Behold the river Mandakini, having variegated islets, beautiful, frequented by ducks and cranes, and filled with flowers, covered with divers trees bearing fruits and flowers, and looking graceful all round like Soigandika herself of Kuvara. And the waters rendered muddy in consequence of herds of deer drinking of them, as well as the graceful descents unto the river, fill me with pleasure. And, my beloved, sages wearing matted locks and deerskins, with barks for their sheets, are in season performing their ablutions in the river Mandakini. And observing rules, persons raising up their arms, are worshipping the sun, and, O thou of expansive eyes, after these appear ascetics following vows, engaged in japa. And the hill seems to dance on the wind swaying the tops of trees, and on both sides of the river, the trees are crowned with flowers and leaves. And behold the river Mandakini, somewhere with its waters resembling pearls, and somewhere with islets, and somewhere filled with persons who have attained emancipation. O thou of slender waist, behold these hosts of flowers spreading along, and others dipping themselves in the stream. And, O auspicious one, behold these sweet-throated birds, the Chakravakas, getting upon the islets, uttering pleasant notes. Methinks, O beauteous one, the sight of Chitrakuta and of Mandakini is even more delightful than life in the metropolis, or the sight of thy own self. Do thou like unto her companion perform thy bath with me in this stream, whose waters are perpetually stirred by emancipated ones, furnished with asceticism, self-restraint, and control over the senses, who have had their sins removed. Do thou, O Sita, perform thy ablutions in the Mandakini, scattering at the same time, O girl, red and white lotuses. Do thou, my wife, always consider the wild animals as citizens, the mountain as Ayodhya, and this stream as the Sarayu. The virtuous Lakshmana is ever obedient to my commands, and, O Videha's daughter, thou also art favorable to me. This causes delight in my heart. Bathing thrice in this river, and living on tasteful fruits and roots, I in thy company do not today wish either for Ayodhya or royalty. Bathing in this beauteous stream agitated by herds of elephants, whose waters are drunk by elephants, lions and monkeys, which is graced with flowers, and which is decked with multitudes of blossoms, there is no one who has not his fatigue removed, and who does not feel exhilarated. Having thus along with his beloved one, spoken variously regarding the stream, that perpetuator of the Raghu race, Rama, began to range the charming Chitrakuta, resembling the collyrium in hue. Section 96. Having showed unto Mithila's daughter the river belonging to the mountain, Rama sat down on its tableland and, gratifying Sita, with meat, said unto her, This clean meat tastes sweet, having been roasted in fire. The righteous Raghava was thus seated in company with Sita, when Bharata's followers came there. And filling the heavens, there arose clouds of dust raised by the army as well as an uproar. And at this time, mad leaders of elephant herds accompanied by the latter, scared by the terrible tumult, scudded on all sides. And Raghava heard the noise raised by the army, and also saw all those leaders of elephant herds scampering away. And having seen them running away and heard that hubbub, Rama spoke unto Sumitra's son, Lakshmana of flaming energy, Ha! Lakshmana, in whom Sumitra has been blessed with a worthy son. Hark! A tremendous and dreadful uproar resembling the rumbling of clouds is being heard, and in the woods and mighty forest, deer and buffaloes and herds of elephants being accompanied by lions are suddenly scampering away in all directions. O Sumitra's son, it behoves thee to learn whether any king or prince is hunting in the forest, or any ferocious beast is ravaging the woods. O Lakshmana, this mountain is even incapable of being frequented by fowls. Therefore it behoves thee to learn all about it, as has actually been the case. Thereat, hurriedly ascending a flowering sala tree, Lakshmana, surveying all sides, fixed his gaze on the east. And viewing the east, he discovered a mighty army, abounding with elephants, horses and cars, and consisting of equipped infantry. Thereupon, Lakshmana communicated unto Rama tidings concerning that army filled with elephants and steeds, and decked with cars and streamers, and spoke unto Rama, saying, O noble one, do you put out the fire, and let Sita go into the cave. And do you string your bow and make ready the arrows and don on your mail. Thereat, Rama chief of men answered Lakshmana, saying, O son of Sumitra, do thou first ascertain whom this host belongs to. Thus accosted by Rama, Lakshmana, as if consuming that army by his wrath resembling fire, said, having got himself installed, Kaikeyi's son, Bharata, anxious to render his royalty perfectly safe, is coming hither for the purpose of slaying us both. Yonder is seen the graceful tree. By the same appeareth on the car the Kovidara standard, having a shining top. And men riding swift coursers are at their pleasure making for this place, and elephant riders, riding on elephants, are also cheerfully directing their course hither. Let us, O hero, taking our bows, station ourselves on this hill. I will today see Bharata, for whom we have come by this mighty misfortune. Or let us rather remain where we are accoutred in mail and with our arms ready. Shall he of the Kovidara banner in conflict come under our sway? O hero, we have met with that foe of ours for whom, O Raghava, you, Sita and myself have experienced such misery, for whom, O Raghava, you have been cast off from the entire kingdom. Surely, Bharata should be slain by me. O Raghava, fault find I none in slaying Bharata, slaying a former wronger, one doth not reap unrighteousness. O Raghava, there is religious merit to be reaped by slaying Bharata, who had formerly done us wrong. On this one being slain, you will rule the entire earth. Today shall Kaikeyi, lusting after the kingdom, with grief behold her son slain in battle by me, like a tree riven by an elephant. I will also kill Kaikeyi along with the humpbacked one, and her friends. Let the earth today be freed from foul sins. Today will I, O bestower of honor, vent my restrained ire and bad blood upon the hostile hosts, like fire set to a heap of hay. Today with sharpened shafts will I cut the bodies of the hostile hosts and drench the woods of Chitrakuta with their blood. The ferocious beasts shall drag away elephants and steeds and men slaughtered by me with arrows penetrating into their hearts. I will, without doubt, in this forest pay the debt I owe to my bow and arrows, by slaying Bharata together with all his forces. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.